Hello, this is G-Lens2011, and I've been playing XDefiant for the past few days, and this is going to be my sort of overall review after extensive play for, like, the past week or so. And I'm going to be first explaining what it is. XDefiant is a sort of 6v6 arcade shooter slash hero shooter light, and the whole game is set within the sort of multiverse of Ubisoft's IPs. And if you're wondering, is there a story within them? That there's no story. It's just there to have fun. You can have as many factions that completely act out of character because it's not canon. Nothing's canon here. All the factions, weapons, maps, and everything all takes place within different factions, different timelines, different games within Ubisoft. So again, don't need to worry about canon. And I played this game with all modes, played all the maps as many times as I could to get a good feel of the flow. I played with all the weapons, all the gadgets, all the classes, because of a progression bug which did get fixed. But when they were fixing it, they had to unlock everything for everyone, so I got to try everything and tried messing with various builds of the guns and the characters, which which is a highlight of the game. The game is made by ex-Call of Duty developers and it's published by Ubisoft, obviously, because of the IPs. And it is a very good, like, Call of Duty light. It's very much like a good alternative to Call of Duty. Would I think it would be replacing Call of Duty? No, but I think it's a good sort of companion piece. Like, if, let's say, you don't want the sweat as much of the sweatiness, you want more of the fun factor and none of the SBMM sort of weighing you down in Call of Duty, you can play XDefiant. And the best part is, it will be free to play once it comes out. And I do mean free to play. That's it. Like, and all the weapons, factions, and stuff like that are going to be unlockable. Great. And all all the maps, like I said, are based around Call of Duty sort of worlds. So you'll be in the likes of Yara, sort of like Cuba, to the likes of the far future, to even the more post-apocalyptic, contaminated streets of New York from the Division. So plenty of variety in maps, like in both feel, theme, flair, and everything. And speaking of maps, the layout's great. Sometimes they have the classic Call of Duty 3-lane structure, and sometimes they have something as crazy as 5 lanes or 6 lanes, and sometimes they have underground areas, above areas. A lot of the maps feel unique, and some of them feel like they're perfect for their respective class. Like, the Echelon HQ has plenty of sneaky hallways, vents, ways to get around that would be perfect for the Echelon class because that is their home turf, while Yara has plenty of choke points and everything that would be great if you have a healing AoE, which again, is great for the Libertad sort of class. So it feels like they're part of their respective worlds, and also they have great variety in gameplay. The only map, however, I will criticize this. I think this is the Ghost Recon map, Attica Heights. It's because the map flow feels at times too restrictive, especially in the lane areas, in the left, right, and middle. It feels like there's just not enough ways to get around, and I understand there's the underground area, but I feel like there's just not enough ways to get to that underground area. It feels a bit too restrictive and too bottlenecky. And I can understand, like, that could be great for, like, Ghost players, but the thing is, the one thing that I did like that the other maps did provide is they have alternative ways to get around based off the other classes. Like, there's more wide open areas in Echelon for the Ghosts to create shield areas. Same thing with the Libertad characters. And I would like to see that being a little bit updated. That's the only map I think needs an update. Spawn logic with these maps is actually somewhat decent, except for one mode, but I'll get to that later. The spawn logic is pretty great. There are multiple times I can be spawned into the battlefield, but I'm not spawned in front of enemies where I'm instantly killed. So that's actually kind of great. Now, enough now, and also the game modes. The game modes we can see, we have escort and zone control, which are both similar to the two modes of Overwatch, like the two sort of modes that we had in the original Overwatch game. And unlike the original Overwatch, where it's just 1 point, a lot of the zone control has 2 points, so it means that you have this sort of flexibility, unlike Overwatch does. Escort, the escort is actually more forgiven before it goes back, and unlike it going back in Overwatch, if an enemy's nearby it, it actually has a time-based system, and the enemies cannot push it back. So the idea is they have to fortify and maintain the defense rather than just push the thing back. This can make the game a lot more intense when you don't think about it. And both of them are really fun. Both of them are really good modes, and the maps that are great are made really good for it, and they all feel different. Domination is probably the closest casual mode you'll play. It's very much like a TDM style, almost like a TDM style mode. Domination, you have to capture the 3 points. You have to hold the points as much as possible. And there were some bugs with the point gain, but they did fix that when they fixed progression and the server stability. The mode, however, I will criticize is Occupy, and this is due to my spawn issue. Spawns are pretty good for the most part, but when it comes to Occupy, this is the only mode where I've ever been spawn killed. It's the only mode I've been spawn killed. And there are also times where the spawns register one team almost right beside the objective. And this can ruin the game experience because it gives that particular team an unfair advantage. And that means that you're constantly in an uphill struggle, especially if the AI spawn logic keeps rewarding that team by spawning beside it. And sometimes it could be the team that's losing, which is kind of an artificial comeback, and sometimes it could be the team winning, which means you end up steamrolling, but it's not your fault. You can't do anything about it. One mode which is a great sense of risk and reward is the bounty mode, which was only available for a day or two. It's basically like kill confirmed, but the person with the most tags becomes way faster, more faster as he collects tags, and not only that, they have a bounty on their heads, and by killing them, they drop more tags. So there's that risk of all the players are going to be hunting you, but the reward is you're going to deal more points, and you're going to be faster and more efficient at killing. Risk reward. And sometimes both teams can have their own MVPs, and the way to win the game is hunting down the enemy MVP before he can get a kill streak going. So the idea is you have to punish them. And I like that. And a lot of these game modes they encourage teamwork. They need you, if you really want to dominate the game, work with your teammates, use your abilities, use the weapons accordingly. Work with your team, and you will come out dominating every time. We also had ranked mode, which was available for a game or two. Yeah, it's 4v4, and a lot of the modes that are zone control and escort have 2 rounds instead of 1 round, and there's also longer spawn times. You also have practice zone, where you have a gun course. You have the ability to practice all your abilities, try all weapons, and it's a very fun little map, which is based it's like a theme park based off all Ubisoft titles. It could be hints to characters and factions to come. And yes, I did say factions. Factions is this game's versions of classes. You have 3 characters which are just customizable. They're basically cosmetic variants they're just cosmetic variants. They have voice lines, and they have visuals dedicated to the character, but all their abilities are the same. So they'll all have the same ultra. They have 2 choosable activatable abilities. You have a choice. And they have 1 passive trait. So with the cleaners from the Division, you have incendiary rounds that deal extra damage. Perfect for using a shotgun or an SMG. And the fact that you can also choose between the 2 abilities, one being a thin line of fire versus an AoE Molotov, which would be great for zone control, is great. The fact that you also have a choice gives you more ability compared to Black Ops sort of games where the character only has 1 useful ability and 1 really crap ability. Phantoms are the defense style characters. They have more health. They use shields all the time, and they also have a giant shield electronic shotgun. And they're based off the Phantoms game. Now I'm gonna get to Libertad next, soon. Echelon is the close-range stealth intel character. They have the intel suits, which can get them to ping close by, and they have the invisibility, which is based off movement, similar to the cloak in Halo. We have Dead Stick, which are all about shutting down abilities. And they also have a Spider Bot, which goes full facehugger on you, and you are basically stunned, and you can't, and it's hard to move. One thing I found out when my teammate was when he punched me, well, meleeed me in the face, it actually got rid of the machine. Don't know if that's a glitch or not, but hey, if it's an ability, why not? Unfortunately, I'm going to have to go with my first criticism, Libertad. Libertad had to get nerfed within the first few days, and they are still a predominant ability. And I think the best way I can condense it is, now the passive trait is not shown, but the whole point is you get passive self-healing. My problem with Libertad, and this is from me playing as Libertad and me playing against Libertad, they're honestly too good of a class, and they fundamentally give a middle finger to the game's balance and team play aesthetic, because their abilities are so powerful and they recharge relatively quick that there's literally no need to use a lot of the other characters. Like, if you use BioVita Boost, it instantly regenerates your health to past 100 to 120. And then you have El Ramita, which heals you really fast. And it is a passive thing. And the passive heal, too much of the players that play Libertad are all focused on self-healing and basically selfishly keeping themselves alive. They're not healing their teammates. And only now, in the past few days when progression got fixed, they are starting to heal their teammates. But still, too many of them just pick Libertad because it's the easiest button, the easiest class to use, because you just push a button, you instantly get past max health. And not only that, you also have their Supremo ultimate, which gives them 200 health and passive health regeneration, and it's a really fast regeneration. Let me tell you, I can have a gun like the ACR, which is the most overpowered gun in the beta at the moment, and it can still not kill them. I can be accurately aiming at them and stuff like that. Unless you're using the most overpowered gun, hitting headshots, you're not going to kill them. That's it. It's a sad thing, reality. And honestly, I think that I get the idea that supers are meant to be powerful, but a lot of the other ultimates have severe weaknesses. Dead Stick's lockout is based off an area of effect. It means that you can get out of the area. Echelon, you can kill the player if they're using the sonar goggles. So they might know where you are, but you can still kill them. You can still counter them. Phantoms, they have the shield scatter gun, but if you have a teammate distracting them and you can sneak up behind them, you can kill them straight away. Cleaners, again, similar to Echelon, you can kill them easily. The problem with it is just Libertad seems to be a class with very little weakness. They can basically just say, F your balance, F your team play. I can just go solo and basically become nearly invincible, or just hard to kill on average. Unless you have specific means of killing them or using abilities, they're just too powerful. And I think that one way they can balance this is by simply reducing the self-heal. I still want them to be a core team healer, but I think that what it should do is, Supremo should give them the 200 health like it normally does, and that's it. No passive heals, no nothing. It's over health. That alone would make a huge, saving grace, but the problem is that if you remove the healing boost, that could potentially stop the overpoweredness. The wave that heals total health and regenerates for you, I think it shouldn't just be an instant, here's your health. It should be it climbs up gradually rather than instantaneous. The gas canister, I think that it's just only the rate of heals is too high. Again, it's just tone down or remove things that just make it ridiculously powerful. Or just give a sort of a debuff. One thing I could imagine the Libertad characters use instead of them instantly healing themselves is, why not have a grenade like the PGX poison from Far Cry 6, where it disables healing. Imagine that as a counterplay. Libertad has a counter to Libertad. That would be kind of funny. So just some, and not only that, it would also stop a lot of the camping. So it means that if they don't have the ability to regenerate health because they threw the PGX poison grenade, they could basically negate camping. And that would make them somewhat of that gives them a different sort of advantage, but it removes the overpowered self-healing sort of thing. Or maybe make the healing based off teammates stay healed. I don't know, I'm just trying to make suggestions on ways to make them useful, but not overpowered as they kind of are. We also have a surprising decent amount of weapons. Now, I did do the count. All the weapons you see here are practically all that's going to be the launch of the game, except for one weapon. We don't know what the last weapon is. We have the M4, the M16, the ACR, and the AK. We have the Vector, MP9, P90, MP7, Double Barrel, M87, AA2, M60, M249, RPK, MK20, and the SVD, the M44, and the TAC-50. Yeah. And pistols, we have Magnum, Desert Eagle, M9, the Colt 11, the 1911, and the M93R. And we also have stickerets, proximity mines, grenades, flashbangs, EMPs. All these are very useful in their own way. Proximity mines actually have a long startup time, so it's not just an easy throw in and, you know, just forgive and for like, throw and forget. You actually have to put some planning into it. Flashbangs are actually surprisingly very useful. EMPs, great for countering abilities, like with placements of shields, placements of the Libertad health pack that are on the floor. They're great, and they're instrumental for that. But they're not good for Ultras. That's what it says on the thing. Ultras, it will not have any effect on. Also, there's a good amount of upgradability with perfect stats. So yeah, so all the things people complain about Call of Duty not having stats, there they are. And I'm hoping that maybe over time, when they're adding new stuff in the seasons, they actually add new overall upgrades. And you'd be surprised how many times you can have a pure accuracy build, but goodbye to your mobility, or you can have a full mobile build where you're treated like it's an SMG. There's also a mastery system, where if you get to level 50, bronze, level 150, you get silver, at level 300, you get to gold. And it is a leveling system with the weapons, and at the rate it levels up, it's actually pretty decent. It could be a little bit faster, but it's not too bad. Depends on more so your ability to play. And I like a lot of the weapons. I feel like a lot of them are, most of them are balanced. I just feel like maybe one or two needs tiny adjustments. Tiny, minuscule. Like the AK is actually pretty fine. It was originally the most overpowered gun, but it's sort of, I think it got like a slight nerf and fired or something like that. Pretty good. I think one good that does need a buff is the M16. The M16 fires way too slow. It's way too slow of a burst rifle, especially when it has accuracy. I think that maybe just the rate in between bursts needs to be sped up. The ACR is the most powerful gun in the game, no question. And I think that maybe the problem is it has high damage, perfect accuracy, very controllable recoil. It is the perfect everything gun. It needs at least one of these toned down, and I think maybe it's just more so damage. That's it. And that means that it still has that laser-like quality, and it would still be useful. The Vector is a great, the only SMG I think needs a small, again, tiny nerf is the MP7. Like the P90, great magazine capacity, but not so good damage. Vector, great damage, but terrible ammo capacity. MP5, perfect balance. MP7, ridiculous. Double barrel, like the double barrel shotgun. The thing is, in a lot of games, I would say, like, oh, this is ridiculously powerful. But then again, the reload's pretty long, and not to mention, shotguns were pretty inconsistent. Thankfully, they did fix this. They did fix the fact that shotguns are now way more consistent. LMGs, very underrated weapon. Not many people are using these, but these things can shred, especially in longer distances. If you can have a way to control the recoil and pump up your mobility, these things can be great for ghost players defending the objective. Marksmen, I believe that they do need a slight nerf. Not so much the damage, more so the fire rate. It's just they fire way too fast. Almost at times almost as fast as like a full auto. And if you keep tapping the buttons, so it just makes it look crazy. The M4 and the TAC-50 are perfect. They do not need to be changed. They are powerhouses. And they're balanced with the fact that they need to be bolt action and stuff like that. And they're very fun to use. The pistols do have a problem. It's more of a technical issue. It's the fact that the fire rate sometimes gets really high and then gets really slow and stuff like that. And I think it's tied to FPS or something like that. And sometimes, like, I could be firing a gun, and it could be firing, like, as fast as I'm tapping, and at times it feels like it's slowing down heavily. And this could be in the middle of a gunfight, and this can lead to my death so many times. Just the fact that I'm tapping the same amount of times with the same speed and stuff like that, and it's just slowing down with me not doing anything. So I think that pistols need to be a bit more consistent. They need to have adjustments to their damage and the fire rate. And that's basically the one thing. Grenades are actually, for most of them, is perfectly balanced. The sticker grenade, very simple to the point, proximity, doesn't instantly activate or activate as fast as usual Call of Duty games. Like if you throw it, it's instantly on and you can kill someone as they're trying to shoot you. Here it actually takes a second before, so it primes, and also crouching, similar to in older Call of Duty games, if you lie down, makes you take less damage or no damage, still in effect. Flashbangs have the fastest fuse time, and they are the best burst grenade in the middle of a gunfight. EMPs can be very debilitating and great for basically negating a lot of camp zones. The only weapon I feel is inconsistent with the fuse time. That's it. It's just the fuse time. Similar to pistols, sometimes it's maybe due to FPS connection, that the fuse time, sometimes the grenade will blow up longer. Like you can count it like 1, 2, 3, and that's something I do when I'm trying to cook the grenade. And sometimes it can explode instantaneously as I predicted, and sometimes it takes like 1 to 2 seconds later. And that can lead to my death so many times. Because it just feels like, similar to pistols, the damage and the timing of it is based off the FPS or the server. Again, just all you gotta do is make it a little bit more consistent. And what we do know is that every season, they're planning to have a season every 3 months. They're gonna add a new faction along with new weapons, and this faction will have their own abilities and 3 characters. We also know that there's going to be customization such as player cards. Simple enough, right? And then you'll also have different emojis for happy, laughing, shocked, sad, and pissed. The point of these emojis is that when you get killed, you can basically send a short emoji message to to the person who killed you, as a means to, let's say, communicate to the person without using voice chat. And sometimes you have moments where you and him would both kill each other, you both send laugh emojis, or you're shocked, or stuff like that in little moments. And sometimes I've seen people send me rage ones because I kill them with a shotgun. Understandable. Also, the challenges are pretty good. They're very simple to the point. Once progression actually started going again, you can unlock these really fast if you know what you're doing. The only challenges I've actually had some degree of difficulty in are the pistol challenges, is because, again, it's just due to the inconsistency of pistols. And I know the fact that it looks like I haven't done these challenges, it's just the fact that for a good chunk of the beta, all these things were disabled and we had everything unlocked. I also like the idea that to encourage you for using every ability, you unlock the cosmetic characters who have their own voice lines and everything. And for the Battle Pass, progression is actually quite fast. It's not too slow. Especially, and it depends, if you're like the best player of the team, you're going to get a crap ton of points. And if you held the line, even if you lost horribly, if you were basically keeping the game held up, you're going to get a lot of points as well. So the game will reward you for being that sort of steadfast player, even if you're in a team of idiots. And the funny thing is, what I did mention is that the player card you can use is also shown for your play of the game. And your kill thing here. Now, one thing I will have to criticize the beta for is that the practice zone, which could have saved a lot of people time for fixing their controls, should have been enabled it should have been enabled a good chunk into the beta, so people can actually practice their sensitivities, their controls, and all that stuff. For the most part, I could not access practice zone, so I had to constantly switch and change my sensitivity and see how they feel like in-game in the middle of a firefight. And sometimes it would see to my teammates that I'm just standing doing nothing. I'm like, hey, no, I'm fixing my settings. I'm hoping that we don't come across that again. Please don't. Ranked play, I do think there should be a system of downvoting bad sports, because there was one or two games where I had a player instantly sort of vocally give up and just go, oh no, I'm not gonna be put effort to you guys. I'm not gonna bother. Like, screw you guys, you're just doing crap. And it's just been very toxic and just treating like it's a team deathmatch, not playing the objective, not doing anything. And I don't want the guy to be reported. I want the guy to be downvotes. It means that the MMR would probably put in more of the bad sports, like the people who are more downvoted over time. Now, of course, there is room for abuse. That is the sad thing about it. But in some ways, I think that I don't want them to be. I don't want them to face any bans. I just want them to see, like, hey, now, guys, I don't want to play with you again. Like, something like that. But yeah, no, the game, I think, is in a good state, and I think the game is a good competitor to Call of Duty. Do I think it will be the Call of Duty killer? Not really, because Call of Duty is doing a great job of it on its own. But one thing I can make suggestions of, because the game's non-canon, I can suggest, like, factions and everything. I would like to see more counter to Libertad. Like, even if, let's say, you keep Libertad the same they are, find someone to counter them. Just that's it. Just someone to counter them, because you can quick change your class and faction at any point in the game. So that's something I wish that they can do. And honestly, like I said, with all the weapon changes, just make some weapons more consistent. Like, you can even try this out with different style players. Like, maybe you could bring in the assassin factions, who are more focused on far range stealth rather than close range stealth with Echelon. And they're all about headhunting the best enemy player of the team. So they're all about high-value targets, similar to the bounties. So you just put that system and make that, like, their passive. Like, they deal maybe a cooldown refresh when they kill the best player of the enemy team. So they're sort of rewarded for it. And you can even put the Templars in as, let's say, a similar faction to Libertad, but unlike them, where they're dealing extra health, they either deal damage resistance or bonus damage, but the weakness is they can't heal, so if they get killed, the buff is gone. So similar to how the assassins can counter the Templars, they can counter all that stuff. So I'm also hoping that there's just not so many crazy prices for cosmetics. We've seen the likes of Activision do crazy with cosmetics and stuff like that, and they overcharge it for just one basic skin and stuff like that. I'm hoping, please don't do that. Make sure the prices are not so crazy high, and you should be good and go. So yeah, I think that's got all my points to across.